Well, everyone, welcome to the podcast, our monthly visit with good friend and brother Mensch, Ilya Weber, who are going to be discussing a variety of political and financial topics and see what his insights are. We always look forward to that. So if you're new to the channel, please do like, subscribe, and share so others can gain in the knowledge you're being afforded. How are you doing today, good sir?
Thank God, all good. We're experiencing really kind of a nice day, a little bit windy, but very pleasant up here, temperature wise.
Good, good. Well, it's raining here a little bit today, which we certainly can always use here in California at the tail end of the rainy season. And speaking of which, we had a very important and interesting State of the Union last night. And if you've noticed, every time that President Trump speaks, invariably throughout the country, you see this fallout of different weather issues and catastrophes because the deep state is not liking the fact that their demise is an ongoing process. So what are your thoughts on that? And what are your thoughts or takeaways from last night's speech?
It's a very interesting question. And now we can observe directly. So last night I went outside and they were putting up chemtrails
Mm.
during the night, and they've continued. So they've totally fogged out the sun again, which just is infuriating. I mean, you can see them where I live. I mean, you could practically reach out and touch the airplane. So they know you're there, and they when they see us, they know they're spraying directly over our heads. It's infuriating.
Yeah.
I think the deep state is reaching for whatever the ammunition they can find. I think I think the speech last night was absolutely brilliant. And it was so different from what we expected, I believe. We were waiting for him to announce XRP, the gold standard, Ukrainian issues, Panama Canal going to BlackRock does not seem like a victory to me, but do we even know? I mean, I've heard reports that BlackRock has gone bankrupt. We just don't really know. Is it really BlackRock? Is it,
Yeah.
has it been taken over by the White Hats? I don't know. The movie is so convoluted. However, I think that Trump did just made a brilliant move last night in that he kind of kept it personal. He didn't get into the nitty gritty, or he didn't come out with anything really astonishing, although it was astonishing because he was basically saying it's all about the people. It's all about you. And my feeling is that last night was a kind of a timeline shift, and that we are now in a new world. Whether, I know a lot of people on our side are angry that he didn't come out and say this or that, but it was just sometimes you have to show the people. And I think that he was really showing people what the Democratic Party was all about. They're just so into their own knuckleheadedness that they can't really represent the people in any way. And I think
Mhm.
it's becoming more and more clear to anyone who even does a little bit of research that the pedophilia, the money laundering, this sexual deviation thing about putting men in women's sports. I mean,
Mhm.
they're just relentlessly satanic and evil, and I think that's what Trump was able to show in a very kind of non-technical way. I thought it was quite brilliant.
Yeah, I agree. I would just add to what you were saying, the cachet, as we always do, we lie together, you and I. There's a lot of cons within the cons. For example, he started out of the gate, the Democrat. I don't think you're ever going to see a Democrat in our lifetime, certainly for a long time, get office, and rightly so. They're writing themselves out of any future. Number one, to your point. Number two, he said, on the backs of that, the Democrats will never be satisfied. No matter what I do, they'll never be happy. I could cure cancer and a whole host of diseases. That was a med bed come if I've ever heard one, right? He started with the golden age, ended with the golden age, if you noticed. He talked about how the Democrats and the deep state are pedophiles and traffickers. He basically started for the normies calling them out, right? He talked about an iron dome or going over the country. I mean, that's definitely the new quantum technologies. He talked again about the golden age. So he may not have. I think he's saving the XRP and that stuff. We'll talk about that in a moment on my slides for Friday for the unprecedented crypto slash quantum summit that's going on at the White House Friday, first time ever. I think he's kind of saving some of those bits there's a lot to throw out in a protracted period of time. But I think a lot more gold was there than people realize. And also, he did talk about the constitutional republic. He did put that in his phrase. So I think last night historically was, to your point, a shift in from the corporation to the constitution and shift in timelines as well. Fort Knox is about to be audited, and that's imminent. And you're going to see that gold reserves are little to none. What do you think that'll do to the price of gold? And with silver being ransacked with COMEX on the markets, that's sure to follow as well. The only question is, are you going to take action or not? If you haven't, what are you waiting for? And if you have, please take a moment to visit one of our great sponsors here below, the link in the description, and call for the information. It's free. The consultation is free. The cost of not taking advantage of this has lasting consequences, folks. Please tell them John and Chris sent you. You'll be more than happy that you did.
Right. I guess I'm like a lot of Anons. I'm just anxious for the shift for there to be a meeting between the two roads. He said he was going to come out and really. So we were. I think some of us were, or at least partially, were expecting a kind of a beginning. But you're right. If you look for the comms, and we've been trained to see the comms, so
Yeah.
I agree with you. It's just we're waiting for. And I think he's already said Easter, and he did give the date of April 2nd. So there is a lot going on, but I think in a way that his not bridging that gap is a statement in itself. And even though there were comms, that there was a great brilliance to it, because at the end of the day, we're not really talking about a specific, like XRP, or like we're talking about a spiritual shift in the nature of consciousness and what people consider important. So I think it was, maybe as an Anon, it was a little bit disappointing, but as a spiritual person, it was absolutely wonderful to see him calling out. I mean, you to take away from this kind of egotistic, what I did, and so look at these beautiful souls and what they have done and what they've suffered, and I think it was really just brilliant, in both in what he said and what he didn't say.
Exactly, exactly. And I comprehend what you're saying on behalf of we as truthers slash anons. We've been in this a while. People are protracted. They're tired. We are as well, of course, even at the front lines, quote unquote, of it for the people. But we have to think about, we have to divorce ourselves as much as we can from our own desires, because it's ultimately, as you've said, you and I've said many times before, it's about the collective society. We have to remember once that we were lost and then found. We were asleep and then awoke at different touch points. And so the need for compassion for the overarching part of society who has like little to no idea. Well, they know things are wrong, but they don't know how to diagnose and put it together in the way that we do. As you said, we've been trained up in this for, quite a while. So they're going to act with as much compassion and long, broad range perspective as they can for the greater of society and the collective. It doesn't mean inside of that things are not happening or they're not going to go our way, or it's going to take a lot longer. No, we're still going to be, through the reset, through the technologies, blessed, and then we'll be tasked, Eli, to go and help the whole of society through families, through friends, through colleagues, through our church, coworkers, and any sundry ways of people that we interconnect with. We'll be able to actually help effectuate and speed up that process and become part of the solution instead of the problem. And I think that's the best way that we can look at it.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that. So what is your take on the economic? I mean, you want to talk about the
There's so many ways we can slice this, as you know. So let me start with a couple of articles I want to show you, Eli, and we'll walk down the touch points. I have to kind of figure out where we want to go with this. Let's start with what we talked about with cryptos for a moment. So you were talking about XRP and how it wasn't optically discussed last night. However, we have this massive crypto summit we just referred to coming up Friday, unprecedented. And look at what's at the center of the central nervous system of the cryptos discussed, XRP, right? Because it's the blockchain ISO 20022. What we believe, Eli, that's really important with this is, if I can switch you over, I'm going to have to take you out of the screen here. Let me loop you into another one here, and we'll go into this discussion here. So I'm going to take you into different places. Uh, we believe that in our team that what we're going to see after Friday is we're watching for XRP to hit its first benchmark of somewhere between $10 to $30. That's sort of the initial breakout point where the currencies can start to take off. Global currency reset, March 3rd. It's done. The world has changed. Trump's State of the Union address will change a lot of things. Nasara Jasara, historic bondholders set to get paid. We're going to be rooting for the private sector because the private sector goes, the public will follow, right? Sources are saying that Trump signed the RB days ago, probably last Friday, or somewhere thereabouts. Activation time is coming into place. Now, we're not doing dates and rates. We're just giving you puzzle pieces and constructs to work with. But payers and banks are on high alert. I don't personally believe in redemption centers. We're going to be going to banks. I've said that, but for those who are in that persuasion, the redemption centers will only be open for a month. Exchanges, here we go, are scheduled, as I said, at major banks. The U.S. Republic begins with fiscal year under a gold-backed banknote. Now we look at April 1st, Eli. We got a lot of important things going on between now and April, as you alluded to, right? And this is up your wheelhouse as a Jew. We just had a DAR, right, from the 27th to March 1st, if I'm not mistaken. Next week, we're in the middle of Ramadan right now. We've got Purim going on, Feast of Trumpets from March 13th to 14th, right? Some blood moons are going to be going on from that point, which I know you're adept at that. So there's a lot of positive things going on inside of that. And I say this to on the backs of what we just discussed to encourage our respective audiences that just because it didn't come out optically per se the way we wanted last night doesn't mean behind the curtain of things are not happening, right? So this is another interesting point on. Can you see this, the Majid? Can you see that
Yeah.
one? Okay,
Yeah.
before I go forward. So this came out a few days ago. Iraq stated that if oil price drops to 65 or below, there'll be a big trouble. The domestic debt will increase above 100 trillion dinar. They have a lot of options, which would be primarily to change the exchange rate. Now, this is a couple of days ago. Actually, you know what? I stand corrected. This was yesterday. Today, the oil price went to 69. Now, take a look at this. Let me stop you here. Take a look at this, Eli, and look what just happened this morning. This came out on NYMEX. Actually, at the start of trading, it was 64.97. We put this on alert to people in our Telegram today. Somebody, a big group, did a sell off of oil, which means we believe at the end of trading today, and probably about another hour and a half is the time of this broadcast, at March 5th today, that they could go below the $65 mark. Why is that significant? Again, Kurdistan region, largest block in Iraq. It costs Iraq currently $16 to produce a barrel of oil. That's what they're paying the Kurds on. You get down to 65, which we are now, that's a 3x profit over their base cost. It's enough to get them to bend the knee where they can't hide behind oil and money laundering of the dollar anymore. And they're fractionalized, which means they're going to have to start revealing their true assets, which means they're going to have to start revealing their exchange rate, right? Out in front for all to see. So let me see if I can bring this up. There's another touch point. This came out yesterday. Silver vaults are getting ransacked. Major vaults have been quietly hemorrhaging silver for years. From 2021 to 23, the COMEX depositors withdrew a third of their silver, which equates to 120 million ounces. At its peak in 2021, LBMA is down more than 400 million ounces. It dropped 71 million ounces, or nearly 10% this year alone. So if we know that we're going to go back to a gold standard, and we know that there's no gold at Fort Knox, or very little, what's that going to do to the price of gold? Conversely, silver tags alongside of it as its little brother. What's that going to do to silver? Should put us in three figures this year, no problem at all. So you have two issues at play. You have the price, but you also have delivery. My thing is, what difference does it make if you can't get it what it costs? Because no matter how much money you have, if you can't get it, it does not matter, right? So if you want to buy shoes, you want to buy anything, but and you've got the money, but I have no way to get delivery to you in a timely manner, it's a moot point, you see? So let me see what else I can do here to show you.
So you're saying that the silver supply, the gold and silver supply will be way down, and that will force the prices up.
Yeah, well, it's supply and demand, like it always has been, like it always will be. Can you see this one with Ariel? Is that showing?
Yeah,
Okay. So this came out yesterday, March Madness. Iraq now says it's waiting on Kurdistan. We just referred to them to give them the go ahead. Now that they're a few days away from leaving the control of Iran, that's big. That's what are we talking about? The corrupt Iranian proxies in the Green Zone district of Iraq's government, right? So
right.
you have a money issue of oil supply. You have a corruption issue being ferreted out, which we know Soudani, like it or not, is corrupt. He's probably going to get replaced. There's talk of Kadimi. I would prefer it to be Abadi because Abadi was one of the good guys who felt really bad that he didn't fulfill his promises. He would love a second chance. That may happen. But again, the point is you're squeezing the corruption. By squeezing the money supply, you produce a result of ultimately a reset, right? So that is set by March 8th. What precedes March 8th? The crypto summit on the 7th. Coincidence? Don't think so. They have become much more confident that in their 2025 budget, they will benefit the economy since all the revenue will now be counted within the domestic currency, which will give their currency value or more value. They will become an economic powerhouse, not to mention Turkey's confirmed the Seyhan port. It's one of the main ports that works along like the port of Fa for shipping, and the pipeline inspections are now completed and ready for operational usage. And it was already stated the KRG, the Kurdistan region, must transfer oil to SOMO under new budget amendments. So for now, we know they're ready to go international anytime. Forex market, where you would typically see along with the CBI.IQ, the Central Bank of Iraq, central bank, to announce the new rate. Forex would also have a new member on the trading block. So pretty darn significant, Eli, as far as what we're looking for.
That's interesting. How, I mean, just as a kind of a reference point, how are
Sure.
we dealing with the dongs, with the Vietnamese dongs?
Well, so Vietnam is an interesting place because they're going to go alongside of Iraq. What we're seeing now is we're seeing discussions about the peace deal with Ukraine and the rare earth minerals. What will follow next? Most likely, this is, I'm glad you brought that up because that was another comment. I don't know if you caught it. I think it was around the hour and don't hold me this, hour 15, hour 20 mark. When I came home from dinner, I watched the whole speech on YouTube. He mentioned the Middle East. He said a lot's going on in the Middle East, a lot of stuff going on there. It's a rough neighborhood, quote unquote. It won't be after this because it'll be Dubai 2.0. But he's talking to the public who doesn't know anything about what we know. But he said the Middle East, a lot going on behind the scenes. He's talking about this. I guarantee he's talking about this. That will be the next peace deal, which will lead to China Taiwan. We just put an article, didn't have time to bring it up, but China is talking about doing a trade war invasion. Could that include Taiwan? Probably, which leads to Vietnam being freed up. So does that kind of help you
Interesting.
a little bit on that?
Yeah, the mic also the microchip thing in
Mm-hmm.
with the Taiwanese starting a plant in Arizona where I live. I think
Yeah.
did he say Tempe, Arizona? I didn't really
I thought
catch
it
where
was
it was.
Phoenix. I thought it was Phoenix, but it could be. I'd have to go back and look at it.
Right, because Phoenix is a really big city,
Sure.
and kind of yeah, more of I think a more inclusive city, let's say, than Las Vegas. I mean, Las Vegas to us is the nearest big city. So, but yeah, so what I'm hearing and what I'm thinking is that what we're seeing is a kind of a joining of timelines, like I was saying in the speech, that he's talking to the anons, he's talking to the regular folks, and they're manipulating the events and the timeline in a way that everything will hit at once. You see the destruction of the Democrats. We're going to see Iraq. We're going to see the XRP.
Mhm.
We're going to see all these things, like you said, the peace deals, and at some point, a public realization. I think when he talks, somebody said that when he talks about uh, rare earth minerals, he's talking about the pedophilia. He's talking about the child trafficking to some degree, and we all know that Ukraine was certainly a central part of this child trafficking operation. So it's
without question.
it's all yes. I mean, if this was a war, this would be we're kind of like in a sort of a D-Day scenario where it's like all the forces have landed
Right.
and the invasion is going forward. It's and we have to think this. It is military planning. So I think D-Day may be a good metaphor. Just popped in my head. I didn't think about it. That all forces are raring to go, and it's just now it's just we're coming down to the part, like if you look at the tree of life about the levels of manifestation, we're coming into the era of action, of the world of action, which is both the lowest world and in some sense the highest world. We're about to see, what that actual time frame is going to look like. I don't know. I saw a Judy Shelton post that said we're looking at 2026, I think, for the US Treasury note. I think she said 26, which startled me.
I think that's just to throw people off. It's going to be way sooner than that.
It has to be. I think it
Oh
has
yeah.
to be. They
It's
have to destroy the Fed. They have to. Now,
they already did.
let me ask you about your information sources. About, I mean, you have some information that the gold is not there. I mean, Q has been telling us the gold is there, but
Well, okay, so we have the gold collectively. It doesn't mean it's all in one place. We've
right,
got gold in
right,
Arizona, we've got it in Colorado, we've got it at the Grand Canyon in terms of we talked about plaster gold vis-a-vis Bix Weir. It's pretty much all it's in many spots around the country. So it's not, Alaska has some. We're not confined to one area. So I'm just saying that they haven't done a true audit of Fort Knox in Kentucky since 1956, bar by bar, line by line. They did a cursory one in 74, but I don't really count that. I look at 56 because we have to test the purity, right? There's a lot of other countries that have more pure gold than we do. Zimbabwe, for instance, Philippines, and many, many others. So they haven't done a line by line, precept by precept of all the bars that are sitting in Fort Knox. Are they lead? Have they been painted over? Are they partially gold? He knows that they either don't have any or don't have the amounts that they say. That's our money, the people's money, because he's trying to expose it. But he's already removed the Fed in 2020, Eli, as we've discussed in documents I've shown you in the past. That's a foregone conclusion. Let's go back to what we said about Vietnam. Did I answer your question basically as far as what you want to know?
yeah, I think so. Interesting that you mentioned the plaster gold because I live in a place where potentially we look at the rocks pretty seriously around here, but yeah, you're right. There's gold in the ground and there's gold that's in bars. So yeah,
Right.
and I've heard also about the Grand Canyon being full of gold and Egyptian artifacts. I mean, if you can even call them Egyptian anymore, but
Yeah.
yes. So it's an interesting. I think we're coming into an interesting manifestation of all forces ready to land, and we're they use the term quite a bit of the stage is set. I think last night
Yeah.
was really about setting the stage.
100%. And then you look at movies like National Treasure, which are, we know, predictive programming. You mentioned the Egyptian sculptures, all the gold, all the artifacts, all the rare treasures, all the minting of the original dollar, so forth. That's a true to life thing. They've got all that. And that's going to be exposed to the world. What has been controlled and suppressed from us will be now given back to us. Let me just show you a couple other quick articles, Eli, which I think are pretty powerful. This one here, I don't know if you can see this, but this relates to banking regulations. So, a press conference last month, Chairman of the Banking Committee, Tim Scott, said he's aiming at stablecoin. That goes back to XRP and other ones, and market structure bills to pass the Senate and be on the president's desk for signing by April. He mentioned April. You talked about that earlier. So that's why I'm bringing this up. It's unclear at this point there'll be enough support. There will be. But Emmer and Torres believe the Congressional Crypto Caucus will be able to help legislation cross the finish line. This Friday is an important demarcation getting to said point. Congressional Crypto Caucus will be driving a force in advancing policies that foster innovation. That's the new technologies, protect consumers, ensure cutting technology. That's ISO 20022 with digital blockchain transparency and innovation. So we take that and we go to this next slide, which becomes, I think, critically important. And I want to show you this. This is from Random Crypto Pal on X. I want to just watch this brief video. Let me see if I can just give me a second here, good sir. So cue up the sound so everybody can actually hear it, which would probably be a nice thing to do. And let me just put it to stereo sound. And let's take a listen to what this gentleman is saying. He's believing now with logic and conclusions and deductions that, remember, The Simpsons had a very cryptic message about XRP being $100,000, right?
Yeah.
What I talked about after Friday, we believe 10 to 30 is that first mark, which is where the currencies really fall in line. That's a clue, folks. You're always
Mhm.
talking about dates and rates. That's a critical puzzle piece. So let's watch this for about a half a minute, okay?
Mhm.
XRP to $100,000? Here's how. There are experts out there that are predicting the price to go up to $100,000 at least for XRP. How is this going to happen? Well, they believe that the idea is that massive entities start tokenizing assets on the XRP ledger and essentially holding value on the XRP ledger. This will limit the supply of XRP that is available to use for on-demand liquidity. When you've got a smaller supply of tokens to use for the on-demand liquidity and a higher amount of transactions to use those small tokens with, the price of an XRP has to skyrocket.
Okay, so I mean, it goes back to supply and demand once again, right? Just like with
That, that
silver.
that's fascinating. Yeah, it's and also the movement of the XRP, the stuff that's kind of in the vault. I mean
Right.
that they've been withholding, and how it corresponds to the national debt.
Yep.
So yeah, the tokenization of this, and also XLM, they also talk about tokenization. So which Bitcoin doesn't have that
No.
function. Ethereum, I think they've been working on it, but I don't know if it's really up to snuff. But it's yeah, it's very exciting. I mean, I'm complaining just because, uh, in terms of my personal life, we're wanting to build a house, we're wanting to do a bunch of drilling. I mean, there are things that we really need money for, and I don't have money now, so we're kind of seething at the bit. We were looking at a trailer this morning that's a lot more comfortable than the one we have, and thinking, well, and somebody was selling it for cheap. But yeah, I think everyone's probably in the same situation where we're just holding on financially, and we're waiting for this reversal. So we're a little impatient, but this has been going on for years. This kind of Q has let us know the situation years ago, and we've managed to be patient this long and not turn into a civil war. We've managed to just sort of like cool our jets and get through the day. And we also up here. I mean, we're now I just built a garden. I'm finishing the and my Danielle has decided to change her idea on getting chickens up here. I mean, we eat a lot of eggs, but you can really survive pretty well if you have a garden and some chickens.
Sure.
So, so we're both in the camp of like, let's just, keep getting through. And at the same time, we're like, I can't wait till we can drill. See, if I could drill one well for, let's say, $15,000, I could drill two wells, and then have. But anyway, these, so I'm sure everyone is probably in a similar situation. If they're not on the level where they're still paying taxes and they're in tremendous debt, credit card ways, they're looking for relief from all
Mhm.
this pressure. I personally don't. I haven't had a credit card in a couple of years, so everything is debit card, and it kind of ebbs and flows. But people have to, I think we have to surf, like somebody saying, it's like surfing on two boards. We have to be ready to be instantaneously incredibly wealthy, and we have to be able to just keep grunting and getting by and enjoying it at the level that we're at. So I think all this is pointing to a kind of a, like I said, a tipping point between various realities and timelines and spiritual. I think spiritually, Trump really set the tone last night with at the end of the day, it's about appreciating humanity, about appreciating the courage, the trials, and the shift that's taking place from a a an economy that's based on taking advantage of people, on child trafficking, on spending our taxes in wild, incredible ways just to put it back in their pocket, to total devaluation of the human spirit and the human abilities, human qualities, human, you know, uh, um, worth, human worth,
Value.
to value, right, to an era where we will totally appreciate each other. We will get past, judgment. We will just first of all ourselves, and we will kind of kick into this new awakening where the human spirit, the soul within, is really appreciated.
Absolutely. And just a couple of touch points to your cogency, if I may. Like, so let's backtrack a minute. So back to Q. Okay. I'm going to take this in reverse order like I tend to do with you. Q said, do we have the gold? Yes, gold shall destroy the Fed. That does not mean, but in and of itself, it's all in one place, meaning
Right.
Fort Knox. That's a very open-ended statement. We have the gold. We're also going to be getting rare earth minerals. He talked about Greenland. What do you think that has to do with? That is to do with trade and commerce, protecting the borders, pedophilia, trafficking, much like Ukraine. There's probably a lot of unexplored life living on subterranean Antarctica. Why, when we fly over Antarctica, do they let us see what's going on down there? What are they trying to hide? Uncovering what's been covered, right? And for your audience that doesn't like these discussions, I've seen it before in comments about financial, understand, folks, I'm speaking to your audience. The money is not our sole preoccupation. It's a means to an end. It's a passing point. Our currency is our value, to your point, of our talents, our giftings from God, Yeshua, and how we bless other people with said talents. As I said earlier, we're going to be able to leverage the wealth to be able to be a light to the proverbial darkness for the harvest of souls for the kingdom of God. And in doing so, accelerate the learning curve, accelerate the abundancy of things so that others can get up to speed quicker. We'll be actually be able to be compassionate ambassadors, if you like, right? And then free up other people in doing so to pursue their talents and natural giftings so they can pay it forward. So what we're doing in this you said about this time transfer is really a transfer of energy, a transfer of hearts and mindset, all collateralized, all intertwined to become going from a paradigm of lack to abundance. And that is not confined just to money.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I totally agree. I think we're heading for the golden age. I'm just impatient, like others.
Oh,
I'm
sure.
but
Oh, yeah. I
that's
mean,
okay. That's okay. Because in actuality, things work out in the right time. Like my partner said today, she said, just when we have money, we're going to hear from the build. The excavator has us on his timeline, but he doesn't tell us when he's going to. He doesn't have a date when he's going to come up here. But she says,
right.
as soon as we get the money, you're going to hear from the excavator, and he'll be up, and we'll be able to hire him to do a couple of different jobs while he's up here.
Yeah. And God's timing, to your point, Eli, is always perfect. Ours is not, because we don't see the end from the beginning. We're just fickle little humans. We all go through it. And I have to include what my mom has been saying for years, which I think I'd like to get your take on. You were saying going from I think you said, if I heard you right, the age of Pisces, we're going to the age of Aquarius now. And we know what goes with that. So can you maybe on her point touch on that a little bit?
Right. Well, the age of Aquarius, I mean, I'm an Aquarian. That's my stars, my sun sign. I
Okay.
live in the Aquarius Mountains, which is full of water, by the way. And it's, I grew up at a time, I was very young for the uh, the 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 generation that after the war. I was kind of like my father waited to get married to later in life, so I've kind of like at the tail end of the baby boomer generation, which was very much about the age of Aquarius. We were all ready for the age of Aquarius, and we got a very big introduction. Probably your mother's maybe a little younger than me or around my age, but she remembers how everything shifted in such an amazing way. I mean, there was, it was just the way people dressed. It was so much color. It was we thought we were coming into the age of Aquarius. Now, whether or not this was some sort of FBI, CIA scam to get it to manipulate us into something else, but um, those of us who remember those times, the Beatles and the music, are looking very fondly because what we saw, and I think what we're going to see here is that when the shift hits the fan, it's going to be massive, radical, and it'll just knock you off your feet. It's going to be amazing. And I also want to just say one other thing, and that is the idea of forming two worlds. And I know Dolores Cannon talks about like people who are sort of three-dimensional staying behind and people who are five-dimensional go vaulting off into higher levels of spirituality. I hope that we all get to ride this train to into the golden age.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's getting into a bit of a uh, spiritual slash faith conversation, but that's okay. You and I explore the boundaries here, and I'll leave you with this for today, because I like these little short micro podcasts where we cover a lot in a short period of time. There's this thing about in the faith realm, from a Christian standpoint, if you will, where our souls are. There's a term, old souls, right? We all know it well, and there's more to it than that. I think, right? If we think about what does that really mean when somebody says that? But we actually, whether we know it or not, just to chew on this, we signed contracts with God, Yeshua, before we were born, to come down for this time and purpose, right? So when you see people passing, we don't necessarily have to make covenants with death, but when we see people that do or pass, they didn't sign an agreement with God to be here at this time. They came at a pre-time, or they came for a certain amount of time. But those of us who are here for this time, golden age, is because our souls align with God to agree for him to imbue us with our different talents to A, help each other, and B, be here for this time and place and season to experience and bless others inside of the golden age and all that it has to deal with, whether it's financial, whether it's technologies, whether it's some people are left brain, some people are right brain, creative talents. Again, I'm going down a rabbit hole, but it's a noteworthy discussion about. I was talking with a guest earlier today about the subject about Elon Musk is now saying on X, we're not going to just have basic income, we're going to have high universal income, right? Nasara. But some people will feel useless because they've been displaced out of their traditional jobs. People actually get paid very well from the bonds and all the things that they've withheld from us for all these years to go pursue. Whether you want to be a writer, a musician, a healer, a poet, I don't know, a landscaper, or you want to minister to the elderly, or you want to read to little kids, or whatever it is that you love to do and are good at, all the things you were really born to do. I'm excited about that because it empowers people for why they're here in the first. Believe the majority of people were just put on this earth to work some crappy desk job to make some corporate raider rich. I have a hard time with that one. Somebody who worked in the corporate world and could not stand it. It was just for me a very soul sucking, pointless exchange. And now people will be able to get that time and money back that was stolen from them. And I think that's ultimately what it leads to.
Yeah, we're leaving Egypt, heading for the promised land.
Always, you say it better than I do, brother, and I appreciate that. Eli, as we wrap up for today, where can people find your work, and any last thoughts you have for the audience today?
I'm on X, eWebstar13, on YouTube, Ellie Webstar 13, and on let's see, Rumble, Kabbalah Guru. But the thought that I would leave everyone with is the same thought that John just really spoke of, and that is, don't wait. Just follow your dream now. Just do what you really want to do. I mean, I've been trying to show my family how that's actually what that looks like in real time by moving out here, by buying this huge tract of land and living on it doing something that I don't really know that much about, but I have the skill set and the inclination to do such a thing. So don't wait for all your assets to
Mm-hmm.
go to the moon. Just start thinking about it, start dreaming, start planning, start developing relationships with people who are on the
Yeah.
same path or can help you. But just go for it, man. It's go time.
I agree. Get in the game. Don't be a passenger in life. Start acting as if it's already here now, manifesting that. So I love it. Eli Weber, thank you, brother. Always appreciate you. Good mensch. Happy Wednesday hump day to you and for your insight. We'll look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thanks so much. See you next month. God
Yep.
bless.
God bless, buddy.